Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Ball Agenda Reveal Show. I'm joined on my left by no one today, and on my right by Chinadu Asanugo. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing well. I'm doing well. I'm really excited for today. And just a quick shout out to co-host Emeka. Um, he's not here today, but our hearts, you know, is with him.
Rest
He's
assured,
again.
he'll be back shortly, and we'll get right
Yeah.
back to having the full team.
Yeah. So
But I'm gonna kick it to you. Let's get started.
alrighty. So today we're gonna be first of all kind of talking about some very big news in the footballing world today. Or not today, but in the footballing world this week, Lampard getting sacked, and we're gonna kind of delve into, how different teams adopt different models to managing their head coaches. And then something else we're going to talk about is just the role of a traditional 10. And we've seen that in Ozil and Odegaard, their arrival and departure. And we're going to talk about how most teams need a camp today. So we're going to get right into it. Fiams, Lampard sacked, Tuchel in. What's your take?
Well, my first thing is to ask you, surprise or not?
Mm. I mean, it was a long time coming.
In general or for Lampard?
No. For Lampard, definitely. I say that because I mean, you say surprise or not, in the past 2 weeks, news has been around the block that he was getting sacked. You could see that the team was just not getting the results, and so surprise, no.
I was surprised it happened on Monday morning, which is
Mm.
kind of heartless from the board. But I guess they allowed him to enjoy his weekend before sending in his matching orders. But given that the guy at the Athletic said that he was going to be sacked right after Leicester, that is what confused me. Why keep him on after Leicester, go through the cup time? Maybe it was just maybe it was just a thing that had to do with securing Tuchel and like figuring out personal terms and when he would start. But like having him go on, play the cup tie, and then win the match, and then sacking him after, I just didn't get the lag time with that. But in terms of what actually happened, yeah, it was a surprising 5 defeats in the last 8 games. One of the craziest stats because literally everyone is losing. Liverpool, what, one win, 1 point from 3 games, 2 defeats,
Yeah.
or some, and they have some really crazy stats over the last 5. So it's not
So,
like it's just them. Spurs went through a bad December.
and in the league, they're
Everyone is
still
going
they're
through
still
like
just 5 points off top four. So
exactly. So what it like 5? Listening to just those big stats paints a picture that makes it seem a lot more dire than it was.
yeah,
But knowing Chelsea, knowing Roman Abramovich, and also knowing the fact that they are going to face probably the informed side in Europe in the Champions League, and that is probably not as far as we think. Now that we think that we're basically in
February.
February, so
Yeah.
that's probably in a couple of weeks. It's probably trying to get that manager bounce and trying to figure out if they can get through in that tie. Because honestly, without this under Lampard, everyone was beginning to see that as a formality, even though it wasn't as clear when Chelsea were in good form a few months ago. So for all those reasons, and the fact that, as we'll talk a little bit more, Chelsea's model is
Yeah.
chop and change, and honestly, like we have to credit them because they've maintained success through that, through everything, through sacking people mid-season. They won a Champions League. They've continued to win Premier Leagues. They've continued to win FA Cups, the Europa League. Chelsea have, I think,
But at
they've
what
gone
cost?
trophyless once, which was last season. Like through everything, they still maintain a level of success that is unparalleled in England over the last 15 years. So
Yeah,
credit to them in that regard.
I do exactly see what you're talking about, especially when we get into their model and how Abramovich tends to do things a bit more harsh, a bit more brash, a bit more aggressive. You're not performing, you're not getting the results, you're gone, right? But here's what I'll ask you, a really quick answer. Do
Mhm.
you think that Chelsea will ever, in the past 5 years, I would say the most successful team has been Manchester City in the Premier League? Do you think that Chelsea can ever replicate that model with how they do things now
They have.
in terms of success
They
and
have
and
already.
not just in terms of okay, I'm getting a trophy. In terms of
Chelsea from
development,
2004-5, Mourinho's first season till I can't remember what Ancelotti's last season was, like maybe 10. Chelsea were the best team in England.
hmm hmm
It wasn't a question. They won back-to-back leagues, and Ancelotti came, also won the league as well. They were breaking records left, right, and center. They were always the only thing they didn't have, which they then got in 2012, was Champions League. They were winning
yeah,
everything else. They had don't you remember the record at Liverpool? This so-called best team we've ever seen in
ever,
Premier League history
yeah,
has been chasing is Chelsea's unbeaten home
yeah,
record from
yeah,
'04
and
to
and
'08.
they're not
Chelsea were
close,
the best team in the
not
country.
close.
Like we hated them, we still hate Chelsea. Most people aren't Chelsea fans, but it was
Yeah,
everyone knew that.
yeah. Yeah, I think you make a great point. Is that it's a model that's worked for them so far, so why change it, right? But I look at this Lampard thing, and when you talk about surprise, a couple of things come to my mind. First of all, I think for most people, given his level of experience and given where Chelsea was at the time, with Sarri, Lampard was not the right man for the job. So getting the job himself was a bit of a surprise. Yes, he's a club legend, but he's 1 year in Derby County.
He's
What do you have to?
the club legend. I heard someone say this, and I
He's
actually thought about it. It's probably the greatest ever player.
he's the him and John Terry, hand in
Yeah.
hand. Yeah. So him getting the job is pure sentimental, not based on merit. If you really think about it.
And the crazy thing
So
that I've been thinking
yeah,
about lately is it's hard to say. You can say give more time to someone like a Klopp, give more time to someone like a Pep, give more time to a Mourinho
because you've
even.
seen them
Never
pull
get,
out the results.
but we don't know actually if Lampard is a good manager.
I agree with that, but I was always on the train
Like
of
we
giving more
guess, we
time.
think, but
Yes,
we there's no evidence to tell us whether or not he's a good manager. Like if there's anything to wait for at the end of this, he didn't set the world alight at Derby. Didn't bring them up. Came to Chelsea, did an amazing job given the transfer ban, but was and finishing top four. That was a really great achievement. But they ended trophyless, and this season they spent 300 million or however many million, and
yeah,
they look
that's
worse. So all the things that we've seen so far don't point to there's a reason to wait. So I can see where the board are coming from because we don't even know. This is not a Tuchel who has won titles. Like okay, we'll say okay, he has pulled it out of the bag before. He knows what it's like to win. He has a proven track record. Lampard retired from football, I think, in 2017.
yeah. But here's what I'm going to say. Let's not dwell too much on Lampard, right? But if you look at Chelsea and you want to say he's not a Tuchel and he's not a Mourinho, this could have happened to Mourinho as well. Even someone with the status of Mourinho, don't dwell on Mourinho himself, but someone with the status of Mourinho, Abramovich would have sacked them if this were the case as well. And that's kind of for me I won't say scary, but I mean, like you said, like you've rightly said, it has worked for them for a number of years now. They've gotten immense success from that. But for me, it's still not as sustainable as maybe the likes of someone like City who has backed the manager, has backed the manager's project, has invested a lot of money into that manager, and has also given him time. Because if you go through the motions or you give them the money, you give them I guess the personnel and give them the means to succeed. If you don't give them time, end of the day, you can never really know if that's a good investment or not. That's literally life. And like my investors out there, shout out my investors, that you need that time. So I think for me, their model is just an unfair one. And it is more unfair in games like and what I was trying to say if I am off air was today the results are not as certain as they were 10 years ago. So if Chelsea goes to a smaller club 10 years ago, you're almost certain that they're going to come out with results. Today, that's not really how games are. Games are a bit more close, especially in the Premier League, where the quality of players, in my opinion,
Mourinho spoke to that. Yeah.
has greatly increased. So I remember when they were playing even a team like Brentford, who is probably going to get into the Premier League, and he said that the Premier League side just in the Championship spot, right? End of the day, what I'm trying to say is that it's a bit unfair to be strictly results based. And I say that although that's their job, they have to get the
And
results.
I'll
But
disagree because have you seen the Tottenham documentary?
all or nothing.
Yeah.
I haven't finished it. No.
Daniel Levy says something. I can't remember what episode it's in, but it's probably one of the earlier episodes when he's talking about how people perceive him and why they had to let go of Mauricio Pochettino. At the end of the day, especially today, when you don't have your sales aren't what they used to be. You don't have ticket sales in stadium. You don't have as much in terms of even merchandise. You don't have as much in terms of TV, which is why they're splitting out all the games to be back to back and on different days and not clustering them. There's so much being left on the table in terms of value for clubs. So clubs are struggling. Like we saw it with Arsenal, laying off people, laying off. The big one was Gunnosaurus, asking players to take a pay cut. Like teams are struggling. And if you think about it through that lens, the club is a business,
Yeah.
and it's a
100%.
business that hires people. So how does the business, like, what is the main metric of if the club is doing well? And
Right.
Arsenal got a lot of heat for this over the years when they were trying to say it was more based on finances and if we just get top four, it's okay. But like the main metric of a club doing well in this day and age, and that allows you to get those endorsements, allows you to get those TV deals, that allows you to be in conversation for this super league that they're trying to talk about, is results.
Yeah. Yeah. And
It was
trophies that
like
gets you money.
exactly
Direct transaction.
trophies. Yes, trophies is a big part of that. But day, week to week results. Is the
Yeah.
team
Yeah.
doing well? Is the team an attractive investment for people? Is the team an attractive proposition? And what's the main thing people look at with that is results.
Yeah.
So if we think about it as removing all sentiment, removing all like the fact that it's a sport, and think about it as a business. If you consistently have, and I know a quarter is more is more time. So let's say on a weekly basis, like if sales are always down every week, something will need to be done. Whether
100%.
it's the segments, the coverage for wherever place, or it's the product, like something will have to be done if for a period of 2 months in an established company sales are down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
that's
think
basically what this is.
that's a fantastic point. And I think even when you look at the clubs and remember how we said like different models, different clubs approach things with. You look at clubs like I want to cite one like Athletic Bilbao off the top of my head,
Yeah.
right? Where it's less run like a business and more run like a family. I don't know how to explain it, but they are more
It's a mom and
community.
pop club. Yeah.
They're more community based, so they are less likely to go out and if they're not getting results, sack somebody, right? And same with their players. Apparently, they're not selling anybody. They could have cashed out on Inaki Williams for a while ago, not selling him, not bringing anyone new in. It's kind of like a whole
I
closed
know
up
they
thing.
can
So
sell. I don't know if they choose to, but they
yeah,
definitely only
Inaki Williams is like
homegrown
is signed to a
players.
7 year 7 year
They
contract.
only use homegrown players,
Yeah,
which just tells you like
it's
that's
not.
not
Yeah,
running like other
and so
clubs.
I think you make a great point in that when you look at the big clubs and how hopefully they aim to run is that they aim to run like a business, which is actually as a United fan I tend to I've argued this a few times with people about whether the Glazers are the right people for the job or not, and how I remember this COVID period everyone was talking about how the Glazers still took home XYZ amount of money. It's an investment for them. End of the day, they might not be the biggest football fans, but it's an investment for them. They want to reap from their
Like we see
investment.
just one tiny little aspect of the football club. Like the
And
football club has a hierarchy of, we know the director of football, technical director, all those things, but there's a CEO, there are people involved in operations, people involved in finance, people like there's the part of the club that is really just about the business. And that part is in service of the part we love, which is on the pitch.
yeah,
But that part needs to be right. And when teams are bleeding money, it affects the part that we love, because you see it when they say, "Oh, we can't buy players, we can only loan players, or we can have, because we're still settling this with this new stadium that we just built, we can't do this." So it all
mhm,
trickles down from those more business-facing areas to the part that we actually care about on the pitch and football operations. But those go hand in hand. And when the strain is as clear as it was at Chelsea, I think it made sense that and given track record of how Chelsea handled these situations, because Conte wasn't even as bad a spot as this and won a trophy
right,
still. in his final season, in addition to the league that he won the year before. Still the same thing.
Awesome take. Let me ask you something. Two things actually. The first thing is early days, but how do you think Tuchel's Chelsea will look? And the second question I think is more geared towards do you think that Chelsea's harsh, brash, and I say Chelsea being Abramovich because he's always the man behind the paper that is being sent
Yeah.
in my club, do you think that Chelsea's approach, for instance, and I remember a couple of weeks ago, or maybe 3 weeks ago, we sat here and we spoke about who gets fired first, Lampard or Ole, and everybody was, or Arteta even, and everybody, had their own different opinions. And now you see that maybe not Lampard is doing the worst, but because Arsenal is still below them, but um, but because of Chelsea's structure and their willingness and their propensity to actually sack the managers, whether they're doing well or they're not doing so well. That's why Lampard left before Arteta, essentially. My point is, do you think that model is the best going into Premier League or into the big six clubs or whatever, or do you think that a more lenient model is better?
I don't think the model. So I think that's a really great question. I don't think the model is as crazy as most people are making it out to seem. Longevity in terms of the top man at the club is, I think, dead. If you think about it, who in the Premier League, let's not even say the Premier League, who in football has been at a club for more than, say, 7 years?
Yeah.
In the last few,
No,
so or like current position is dying. You can point to the Simeones of the world who have had some longevity. You can point to Roy Hodgson. I feel like has been at Crystal Palace for a little minute. But you really struggle because it's just the nature of the game. You don't have the Sir Alexes, the Arsene Wengers anymore that just one club managers or 1 to 2 club managers. It's very seasonal. And because of this, I don't know if it's a shift, but this emphasis now on it's probably a shift because football has probably evolved into a much more complex business, and football clubs are probably a lot more complex in terms of their business models than they were years ago. So I'd say a shift to this more business focused way to run clubs. And we see it with like bigger stadiums being built, bigger moves, bigger marketing, bigger advertising, like all of that stuff is becoming bigger. So I think it becomes even more important that the results and stuff match up. So that's why we're seeing people not spend as much time at clubs as they used to previously. Because probably it's even harder now that everything's so complex. Now you're not just dealing with the players, like there's so much above you, so many other decisions. So that's probably a strain on also the managers who don't even want to be in those situations for too long. I think all those factors come in, and we're seeing just overall managers spending less time at clubs. So I don't think Chelsea is the extreme, but I don't think it's that far from the average nowadays. And I think it's really important because you have things like you have clubs like Leipzig. Like I said, they were founded in 2009, and honestly, when I think about like how can I point to how this team went from 2009 to now being really a powerhouse in Europe, even though they've had that turnover, they've had generational managers throughout.
Yeah.
Rangnick to Hasenhuttl to Nagelsmann. Like these are not just your run-of-the-mill managers. And I think it's very important still that with that, there's some sort of, I hate how people use terms like DNA, but there's some sort of identity that gets progressed through. And you're not just picking the hot manager at the time. Because there's certain people 100%. That wouldn't work in certain systems.
100%.
And Leipzig have really nailed that. Like not every manager is not the a Nagelsmann is probably not going to easily walk into Atletico Madrid maybe whenever Simeone's time is up and just make it work because he's the hot manager. But I think a lot of people are not doing that due diligence of how does this fit with what we've spent building in terms of the fundamentals of this team, and they just hire. So that's why when it doesn't work out, you see, oh, this is not this type of person player, or this system doesn't work for this manager, but you brought them into that. So I think people are failing to do that due diligence, and it's coming to light faster because of how quickly the football world is moving, and it ends up in the.
Well, it's funny you say that because in my debate yesterday, or in one of the conversations I had yesterday, we talked about this identity you're talking about, this DNA, and you speak and you say, okay, what is Chelsea's DNA or what is Chelsea's identity? And their best spell has come under a more defensive coach or manager like Mo, right? Their best spell, unplayable, unparalleled success. And so when you look and you say, okay, you replace a manager like Mo with someone like Lampard, who are looking and saying, okay, the best I can say about Lampard is that his team plays attractive football. It doesn't really tie into their DNA. So yes, on paper it looks, yeah, this is our club legend. This is a great guy, and this is someone we want at the helm of things. But in reality, he doesn't fit into your best playing style and your quote unquote DNA, if that's what you want to call your DNA.
I
So
won't say DNA. I hate that word. Let's
right,
think
I get
more
what you're
about
saying.
it as continuity. Like people
Yeah,
aren't really thinking
you
of
build
how
on
does this person build
tie
on
to
what
what the
we already have.
predecessor did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I don't know if how easy that is to do and slash how important it is. Maybe that's just me speaking
I think it's
ignorantly.
huge.
But I
Look
think
at,
it could be useful.
I think it's huge because you look at, especially when something good is going. So if something's bad, right? You want to kind of change you want to have a paradigm shift. You want to change the direction
Yeah.
it's going, and you want to go in a different direction. But if something's going well or well enough, and you can't build on that, then you're just going back to the base and you're starting from scratch. So
Yeah.
I think that's one thing clubs have to think about is more like, okay, maybe we're not where we want to be, but we're on the right track to get where we want to be. How do we get someone that fits into that? Not just how do we get someone that looks nice on paper.
Yeah.
Um,
Like the hot manager at the moment.
yeah,
I think it worked really well. We've seen it at Southampton. When Nigel Pearson was doing a very decent job, and Mauricio Pochettino just built on that. They didn't need to sack Nigel Pearson. They were doing okay. I'm actually forgetting it. His name is Nigel Pearson is Leicester. I forget
and
what his actual
Pearson is.
something Pierce. Former the Southampton manager before Mauricio Pochettino.
I have no idea who that is.
Let me see.
But yeah, carry on with your
I
points
gave the wrong
while I
name,
while I
but
while I
that
look him up.
yeah, there was a little bit of there was continuity there, and you could see it even with like when Claude Puel left Leicester and they brought in Brendan Rodgers. Like that didn't need to happen, but it happened, and it just seemed like there was kind of an intentionality about how they were thinking about the next hire versus I don't know. Tuchel just feels like who are the hot managers right now, which is why
Who's
it
out of a
could
job?
work, but it'll inevitably lead
New
to
manager
another
bounce.
chop and change that you can't really find continuity with because Tuchel is
Yeah,
also someone that
I
uh,
I think it's important also during this segment. I think we're talking about to highlight the lack of black.
Nigel Atkins. Yeah, I don't know why I said
Nigel Atkins.
Nigel
Yeah,
Pearson.
I saw that.
That's Nigel
I
Atkins.
just didn't want to interrupt.
Yeah,
But I think it's very important for us, especially, to highlight the lack of black managers, because I remember we were talking about Lampard and him being underqualified for the job, but he got because he's a club legend. A lot of black managers or black professionals that would love to get into management have not been given such an opportunity, and I think that's very, very telling on kind of the direction the Premier League has been going, and that needs to change. Sterling said it recently, that they're not giving as much of an opportunity. Seedorf has come out with multiple documentaries and articles about it as well. And even when maybe they're given a chance, I feel like the black managers are held to a much higher standard. And it's
so
telling,
you're
especially
just describing the world.
exactly. It's very telling, especially when you think about the history of the Premier League, and there've only been 9 Premier League managers that have been black, and this is counting Nuno Espirito Santo, who I don't count as black. What's your take on that, Spimes?
I think, like I think there's not enough recognition of black players at the top level of football.
Sadio
So
Mane or Aubameyang?
I'm not
That's what I
surprised.
decide.
You hear some of the comparisons or people that people say are better than people like Mane or Aubameyang, and you don't know this is just because they're black. And I think when you don't have that at the elite level, it's a lot harder to have give recognition to managers
Yeah,
because you don't even think like Yaya Toure is another example of someone who was an
yeah,
incredible
yeah,
footballer, but media made you think it was something else.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so I think that filters into the managerial aspect, so people still probably have those biases about how black people view the game and think about
Pace and
the
power.
normal pace and power things, and are not as intelligent in terms of
Technical.
reading
Yeah.
the game and are
Yeah.
not as technical as players. So why would they be technical readers of the game? But I'm very, very excited and happy to see things like Ledley King being on staff at Tottenham, because that could be an
Stepping
easy
stone.
stepping stone for him to take on a bigger job and become a manager. I'm seeing some of these more recent ex pros taking on jobs on
Sky
people's staff
Sports and
and backroom,
yeah, pundits.
and talking about it on Sky Sports, things
Yeah.
like Michael Richards, showing that black people can actually discuss the game and have just as much to add as other people. And I think that is kind of the first steps to get into a bit more diverse layout of managers.
Yeah. Awesome point. All right. Well, moving on. We are now going to talk on tens. The number 10. That is honestly my favorite position on the actual football field.
Lost
But
at
the lost art of the 10. That's the
yeah.
name of this title or the name of this episode. But recently, we all know about how Mesut Ozil has, fell
Been
off at Arsenal.
disgraced
Yeah, he was
and
very, very
disrespected.
unfairly disrespected at Arsenal. But I'm happy he has a bit of a fairly happy ending.
Yeah, I'm
Possible
happy he
to
got to
penalty.
leave without going on a free and could
Yeah,
show that
he
people want him. It's not like, oh, he got pawned on
yeah, and
someone.
Fenerbahce is his boyhood club as well. He
And a
supported
big
them
club.
even while he was in Germany. Huge club, and he said he was
Fenerbahce are
doing
more
really
likely to
well.
play in
But
Champions League than Arsenal. So,
write that down.
yeah, it's facts.
We're really happy for him. But then, as Ozil was departing, very interesting move as well. Odegaard is coming in from Real Madrid. Odegaard, I remember when he was coming to the ranks 16, 15, he already,
Before you
was
even knew who he was, you just
making
said
a lot of
Odegaard,
waves.
Odegaard, Odegaard. Yeah.
Exactly. And now he's coming in as kind of that creative force. So I guess double up on what they have there with Emil Smith Rowe. So I think this segment will just talk briefly on kind of the importance of a calm, I guess, and a 10. And I know Fiams has a lot to say on it, so I'm going to give my take first. Fiams has a very matter of fact take on it, and then Fiams is going to close out.
And
So
also, before you even go into that, I would say it's just interesting to think about how, when Arsenal have like someone like an Eddie Nketiah and they say he needs to get loan experience. What clubs pop in your head?
what clubs pop in my head for Eddie Nketiah?
Yeah,
Or more in Prem or where?
just if I told you, give me 3 clubs that you'd say would be good for him to get loan experience.
I'll send him to Derby.
Okay,
I'll send him to. I don't know. I probably will send him to it. I'll
that
send him
is
to a
good because they're
lower.
trying to do stuff like they have
Yeah,
like something to play for.
I'll send
Yeah.
him to a team like Derby, maybe Leipzig, to go and do something like what Lukman did, and then who knows? A team that what team is it? Maybe Leeds. I don't know.
Okay, interesting. He was also at
Well,
Leeds on loan already,
yeah,
so
yeah.
that's
What
to
what
go
what
back.
teams would you send him
It's
to,
just
and why
interesting
why the
it's just
question?
interesting for me to think that Arsenal have fallen so far that they're the club that Real Madrid sends people to go and do loan experience. Send Ceballos, send Odegaard. Like it's kind of it's just sad to see, because when I think of where Arsenal sends people, like you always think of a step down
Lower.
for a player to go get loan
Okay,
experience,
I get
and
your
Arsenal
question.
is now that step down for us to throw at Ceballos, Odegaard, whatever loan player that isn't really working for us, and it's just sad. That was the only point I wanted to
to
make
be
on that.
fair, that point is very well taken. But to be fair, Real Madrid have such a great crop of players that if they send like second team to other teams, it still looks like you look at Hakimi. Like Hakimi goes to Inter, step down, quote unquote, but is Real Madrid is they're already at the very,
No,
very, very, very
I'm
top.
not saying
So
like Inter is pushing, doing stuff like you see that as, oh,
most
he
my,
went to
my point
somewhere
most
that's
teams
like
most teams
Chelsea
will
to
do a step down.
Milan this season. That doesn't feel like a step down for Tomori, but it's a big step down for Odegaard, and it's so big, it's so massive. He's almost playing like 2
That's what's
leagues
alone.
lower, and it's just sad to think that's where Arsenal are falling. Arsenal that used to go to the Bernabeu and win 1-0 in Champions League, now getting the rejects from the
But
team B or C.
but you look and you say maybe a bit self-inflicted, right? You look at the messiness of the Ozil saga and you say maybe it could have been handled much better. It could have been handled in a way that was more beneficial to the club. And I know people cite, oh, Ozil was beyond his prime and X, Y, Z. But at the end of the day, for me, it was a political issue. Political being that Ozil made some statements and
My Ozil is 40. He's going to be better than Emil Smith Rowe. It does like Ozil. How many? Ronaldo's past
and
his prime. Messi's past his prime. You're not telling us anything new.
yeah,
People get past their prime as they age.
and that's okay.
They're still good enough to be in a team that
That
either
is
plays
struggling.
with a non-10 in the position of 10 or plays with no 10
That is struggling.
or
Yeah,
just plays with a bad 10.
and that's what I'm saying. I feel like if they had tried this whole, we're going to freeze Ozil out of the team, and then they're getting results, then you can
We're
justify
like
keeping him out.
15th for like
Correct.
7 weeks.
But you freeze Ozil out of the team, and your problem is as glaring as the sun, and everyone is shouting, "Bro, you need a 10." And for multiple weeks you don't bring anyone in to fill that gap, and you still have Ozil on your payroll for £300,000 a week. So I think it could have been handled a lot better. But at the end of the day, I think it points and Ozil leaving and Odegaard coming in. I think it points so much to the importance of that creative in between the lines 10 on a football field. Like it's literally the link between your, whether you want to even talk about your defense and your attack.
Yeah.
You can say your mid and your strikers, whatever, but he's the link on the field. No two ways about it. They need to be able to progress the ball a lot of times, and that's what we were saying with Arsenal, right? Was side to side passing. Maybe David Luiz hits a long ball out to Tierney. Never anyone to actually pick the ball up and progress the ball in the middle of the park. And now that Odegaard is coming in, that's literally what they're bringing him to do. Emil Smith Rowe has done a fantastic job. He's been multiple men of the matches. I don't know what you want to call it. He's been so
Just
good
say
for
one man of the
Arsenal.
match awards.
He has won multiple man of the match awards, men of the matches.
He has
um,
the title of this episode.
but now they have to go out and bring Odegaard when arguably the best 10 I've seen play in a long time is leaving your club. So I don't know what you think, Payams. Right move, wrong move.
I mean, it's definitely the right move. So I was just writing that down so I don't forget the title of this episode. It's definitely the right move in terms of replacing that creative outlet, because Arsenal putting all that pressure on Emil Smith Rowe, who's 21, I don't think would work over the course of the season. And also, if he got injured, back to square one. It's great that it took this to give him his shot, because he needed a shot, especially for given the types of players that Arsenal have been playing and given shots. So that's that on that point. But I also think having that number 10, and as much as I love Atletico Madrid, is kind of my problem with watching some of the games, especially against teams that sit back. Without the number 10, if you play like a 4-4-2, it just very quickly gets very robotic. Liverpool tried to do it also, and you see it. Liverpool don't play without a traditional number 10. It gets very robotic. There are only so many things that you can do, and a lot of them involve playing out on the wing. And a lot of them involve set pieces, and we see that those have been the strengths for teams like Liverpool and Atletico Madrid. But having someone in between, and which is why I now appreciate having Joao Felix play as a supporting striker and drop a little bit into that 10 role and kind of link play a little bit, allows you to do a lot more stuff and be a lot more varied in your play and approach play. Having someone like an Nobele at Spurs, or and which also and another a system that allows Kane to drop deep, but and Nobele who can progress the ball, who can beat players. I think just adds to their arsenal, because they can still play set pieces. They still have flying fullbacks. You can have Aurier, Regulon, but now through the middle, there's a little bit more guys, and that's what you need against these low blocks. Because to be very honest, every team that's not good by a top number 10 or quality scattered around the team, even typically when they have top number 10, that doesn't have quality scattered around the team, this whole notion of pragmatism that was pioneered by lots of managers over the years and that they got hate for has become more widespread, and everyone does it all the time now. People know how to set up to frustrate and to make you leave yourself susceptible to the counter attack so they can even nick a win, not even just take a point. So when teams set up like that, as we saw Burnley against Liverpool, just sit back and just allow you to do it. It's very robotic, and if you're just going to hoof crosses into the box and you have Tarkowski, you have Ben
And you have
Mee,
people there waiting for
that's
those
meat and
crosses.
drink.
Yeah,
And with and when you play without that person that can kind of give you a bit more through the center, it's just you're just trying to see if the team can do it and maintain concentration for 90 minutes.
yeah,
And
just
and
players
teams are
around.
getting much better at that. They're well drilled on the training ground. But with that number 10, there's that element of unpredictability that sometimes it comes off and sometimes it doesn't. And that's what you get with those players that you say, oh yeah, he had a really bad game, nothing came off. But when it comes off, it's amazing. It's how you break those teams down. It's how you force people out of position, because when you do,
Find the pocket of space.
yeah,
Yeah,
when you play without that player, it's very easy for teams to stay in their position because you're going to keep doing the same thing. But when you have dynamic movement, which is why Arsenal was really good the season when they had the Cazolas, the Rosicskis, the Wilshires, the Ozil,
the
when you
ball
have
everything.
dynamic movement, 10 like players in and around that midfield, you shift players around and you
Correct.
force them to break that low block position that they have, and that's when you find spaces to actually hurt them.
Yeah,
Otherwise, teams are very well drilled nowadays, more than ever before, because I feel like the quality of managers also in the league and just in general has improved so much. And besides that, sports science is crazy. You have people crunching numbers all day. Every team, which is what I'm
video
saying, these teams
analysis.
are companies. So every team has their video analysis team, their data analysts, their you see
Coming
them
to
on the
be
side of
ready.
it. Managers aren't even watching the game anymore. They're just looking at this iPad that they
iPad.
have by
Yeah,
them, looking
yeah.
at things. People with head AirPods or whatever are always talking to them, showing them stuff on the iPad. People aren't even watching the game again. It's all in the data and it's all in those. People have gotten so smart about figuring out systems and how to make systems work. So people know how to play this low block. This low block is as supported by scientific evidence as has ever been, and people have the
Efficient.
tools to make it as efficient as possible. So if you don't have that unpredictability in your team,
Yeah,
you struggle, and we've
yeah.
seen that a lot. And I think that's where that I'm happy that that's the place that we've gotten to, where that role is back at the level of importance that it was before.
Being
Because before it was
appreciated.
a thing
Yeah,
of we enjoy watching them, they bring flair to the game. Some are luxury players, but when it comes off, it's great. But now it's you need them, because
yeah.
otherwise these teams cannot be broken down.
Correct.
And I think I'm happy about that, because it just means we get to see more creative players, and that's what we love about the game.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
long-winded answer, but
No, but very, very. It hits the nail spot on the head, and I think you make great points, especially when you talk about shifting, because that's key. I think a lot of times in football, people forget like, okay, you can you you can have a plan in place, but at the end of the day, for instance, if De Bruyne is in between your lines, someone has to go out to press him, right? So the manager will set up, say, stay in this block, don't break the line, blah blah. But at the end of the day, you have someone in and around that area with quality. Someone's gonna have to press him, and that leaves space in behind for someone else. So a lot of times, what these tens are doing, not only because people talk about people like Messi, and I'm going to go off really quick. But we talk about Messi and their impact on every given game they play. If you watch Lionel Messi and the likes of him, let's say it's someone like Neymar, not only are they super, super talented on the ball, they are, I can't remember what exactly it's called, but essentially they are a magnet to other people, right? So they pick up the ball and immediately, because of their quality on the ball or their quality off the ball as
the
well,
force
they are
players out of
surrounded by,
position.
yeah, they
Yeah.
are surrounded by three players. And even though Messi doesn't give the assist or he doesn't score the goal, which sometimes he will, he has created space for Jordi Alba on the other side. Easy. And that's I think something that's very underrated in football is just being able to move people around. And I mean, I'm sad to see Ozil go, but I'm also happy to see Odegaard come in. I think that's
Yeah,
amazing.
this is great. He's kind of gone under the radar a lot. His spell at at
Sociedad.
Sociedad was pretty good
Yeah,
from a
yeah,
numbers perspective, but
yeah.
he's definitely not lived up to the hype when he was
The hype
16.
of
So this
Odegaard
could be
actually.
good or bad for him if he's a player with personality, as Lampard would
That's the
say.
bias.
This is great for him. He's in the biggest league in the world. The microscopes, the binoculars are out. Everyone is watching him week in, week out. If he
He's
performs, his
also
star
playing with
goes up.
the likes of Aubameyang. So I mean,
Exactly, like quality still. So
if he does
if
his
he
job, he
performs, his
gets
star
yeah,
goes up. If he doesn't perform, the binoculars are still out. The
yeah,
microscope is out, and he's just going to look like another Boyan who broke onto the
yeah,
scene
yeah.
and never. Even
And failed.
Boyan had times in the first team where Boyan looked the part. So Odegaard hasn't even reached Boyan type level for the hype that
Yeah,
we've seen from him. So it's exciting, big move for him,
yeah.
and a decent challenge because of where Arsenal are. I don't think Arsenal are the finished product, so he has a lot to.
A lot on
And
his
he's
shoulders.
22 and Smith Rowe is 21, so hopefully they can build a friendship and they push each other. It's not like really this experienced person coming in that is Smith Rowe is understudying. So we're just assuming he actually gets into the team. Who knows? Because they're pretty much the same age. They fight for the spot
Correct.
and may the best man win and hopefully it makes both players better.
Correct. Well, the only thing I would say is I don't see Odegaard coming in for a loan spell that he doesn't get playing time. He might as well have stayed in Madrid. But I get exactly what you're saying. I think they're going to definitely find that balance in playing and being on the bench and learning from each other and go from
The
there.
only way to know how a player plays is to see them in training. So Ateta
Yeah.
has gone off of scouting, whatever they do for scouting. You can see him and think better option is Smith Rowe, and he spends
Yeah.
time on the bench. Ceballos is not in Arsenal starting lineup,
Anymore.
and he
He
renewed
was
his
not.
loan. He wasn't even last season for
He was.
majority of the time under Mikel Arteta until Project Restart. So
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
when he started to play more of a part and secure the
That
second
that's
loan.
that's kind of
So
really before we wrap it up.
yeah,
That's kind of my thing about the whole Real Madrid, and I think you can look at a lot of clubs and look at Kovacic going to Chelsea alone. Anybody like Real Madrid are so stacked, and I think sometimes they might even forget some people on their payroll because you look and you look at what's this guy's name? Odriozola goes to Bayern Munich to actually play. He played for a while. He was one of their best players for a period of time. So Real Madrid, they have so many quality players, especially at a young age,
not
that
right
it's easy for
now.
them to not anymore because a lot of times those people are realizing, oh, there's nothing here for me. Modric, Cruz,
Yeah, so
and,
it's
and
sad.
and
I'm
the
I'm
old guys,
surprised that Odegaard can't get to the team right
and,
now.
and the old, yeah, no,
This is the
but you
worst
see,
Madrid we've ever seen
and
in
you
our
say that
lifetimes. Do you know this
you
is the worst Madrid we've ever seen in our lifetimes?
I will agree with that, but I will also say that prior to these past like 2 seasons, they had one of the best crop of young players coming up. And that's why I think those young players are real. It's kind of like imagine if you were in the Italian squad the entire time and you are a goalkeeper for the past 20 years. The fun is not leaving that team. And I think some of those players are starting to realize, oh, we thought Modric and Cruz were done, but end of the day, big games. We talked about this on the show one time. It goes back to that Modric Cruz Casemiro mid. So
Yeah.
what can I do? What can I really do? I have to go somewhere else. And that's sad because even Carvajal, I thought Carvajal would be done away with. I thought Hakimi would actually be the one. They had Hakimi and Odriozola waiting for Carvajal to be done. And look at where we are. Like Palameni is lucky to even be playing. But anyhow, I've really enjoyed this segment, and I think we had a very, very good conversation. So to wrap it up, FPL.
Haha.
I'm going to speak on last week because, as the king that I
Yeah,
am,
I don't have
FPL
much
king.
to say, so I'll go first. I mean, I planned a lot for game week 18 and 19. I actually planned 5-6 weeks worth of planning went into it. It was a very low scoring free hit in 18, so did about average where everyone who did the free hit landed. But I thought I was well set for the double game week. Cancelo had been promising me his 20-point haul for about 2 months, and I kept him in my team, kept the faith with him, kept the faith with Kevin De Bruyne. Salah got a 12-day rest, so I was assuming two home matches. Given that Liverpool had not lost the home game for 3 years, they go on to lose the first home. I put my captain Zamban and Salah 2 home games, blanks in both. De Bruyne gets injured. People that
Blanco.
didn't plan for the as much as I did, just last minute brought in stones and did better than me, and much better than me. It was a tragic week. I'm probably going to do better this week than last week, even though it was a double game week.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I mean, tell the viewers about your week so far. You have Tuchek
I
and
don't want to. I don't want to jinx
you want
it.
to jinx it. Okay, okay,
I
okay.
mean, but I
Sorry,
have
sorry.
Suchek and Gundogan and almost put Suchek on the bench for Kufal. So I'm glad that no, almost put Suchek on the bench for Dallas because I thought Newcastle was an easier fixture, and then I'd have Dallas and Kufal and then Suchek on the bench. Decided to go for just. I mean, I don't even know if it's a risk, but decided to not do the play the numbers game and say if the guy clean sheet, they'll get me 6 versus Suchek get me 2, and actually just play the upside and say if Suchek actually does better, like I have much more potential for
Paid off.
returns here. So that's worked out so far. So in the 2 games, I actually need to catch up on the results, but the City game went well, and the West Ham game went well. So we'll catch up with the rest of it. But so far, definitely probably going to do better than my double game week, which is sad. But all this will be crowned if I get a nice Hattie from HK10. I need
Oh
that
yeah,
Hattie.
need it. We need it.
Need that Hattie.
Manifest it. We
Yeah.
manifest it. It's Liverpool too. We manifest it.
That would be serious problems for
I,
Liverpool.
I back him. Well, I brought him in as well this week because I literally legitimately back him to get at least 2 goals against
And there's
Wolverhampton.
nothing really in terms of it's sad. At the start of the season, we thought there was a lot, but now that you think about it, there isn't that much in terms of forwards in FPL to really think about. Calvert was great at the start of the season. We've kind of come off him.
I had to put him
Ings
back in my team.
got injured,
I
got
did.
COVID. So it's really
Ings is back,
Kane.
but he's
Kane
yeah.
gives you everything. Antonio has been looking good lately, so happy to have him back. But Watkins doesn't really inspire. Che Adams had a good spot at the start of the season, but that's done. It seems like Bamford, I think, is a season keeper, but he's off the ball right now for a little bit. So there's not that much in terms of
Yeah,
strikers to go for.
yeah,
So Kane is always the man.
yeah. Like me, I always say it's chestnut checkers, and I think you're always in for the long game. But at the end of the day, last week I had my first 100 point week in
Did you
FPL.
use any chips?
I did. I played my wild card, but
Oh, respect.
um, thank you very
Yeah.
much. I brought in Stones and Cancelo, who gave me nice points, and I expected a lot more from Mo Salah. Did not do anything for me. Um, but I
But
think
that's the thing with Salah, because now he's out of my team and watch him go pop against Tottenham.
let's not
That's the
checkers.
thing. I
Left him
stayed,
on my team,
yeah, I
baby.
stayed with Salah through the hard times. People have been taking Salah out for the last like 5 weeks. I was like, no, I always do this every season. I take Salah out, and next week he does. Like I took Salah out, he came off the bench. I scored twice against Crystal Palace. I was like, okay. In other seasons, this is what always killed me. I brought him right back immediately. Through
Blank,
all the
blank,
blanks, I
blank.
kept him. Still kept blanking. Now I finally lost it after like 5 or 6 games of blanks, and just watch him do what he always does to me.
Yeah. Well, I think at the end of the day, no matter how you're
I probably
doing
need to be
FPL,
like Ben Crabtree. Do you know Ben Crabtree?
I don't. Who is
He
that?
won in I think 2015-16. I think the
What do you
last
do?
season before Salah came to the league. But he's an Everton fan, and he just has a role that as an Everton fan, he never uses Liverpool players. So obviously he won the season before Salah came because Salah became the best player
Yeah.
in the league. But he still does well every season, but he has obviously not won since. I don't think it's
Never
possible to win twice in FPL, but he hasn't reached the heights that he used to before. But
because
regardless, never like Trent Alexander-Arnold and Robertson had amazing seasons last season. Never go in his team. Salah never go in his team. Mane never. I think I just need to have either a team based rule or a Salah rule that I'll walk around him because he always like I don't even get the holes because I take him out before they come, bring him back in. I just take hits for Salah, honestly. Hits that
it's
don't pay
always
off.
it's
4 point hits that don't pay off.
always at the wrong week on the wrong
Yeah.
week, it seems. Well, thank you guys for listening today, and I guess Payam's
Give
going
us
to
yours
log out.
now. Are you done?
Give us,
That's it.
well, yeah. I mean, I had a 100 point week last week. You know how we do. It's not easy to be 100 points. How you feel me? Um, this week hasn't started off so well, but like I said, chess not checkers, so we're in it for the long run. Like Payam said, hopefully Kane gets a hattie. but I took a -8 to bring in. I had to replace Vardy and KDB because of injury. So, and those were two big hitters on my team. So I had to bring in what's his name, Kane, and then I brought in, instead of Gundogan, which everyone seems to have done, I brought in Phil Foden because just want to pick up
Generational.
generation exactly. And these
Yeah.
generations, really generations
That's
to
your
me.
philosophy. You have to use your philosophy in FPO. And if you
Exactly.
don't have philosophy, what do you have?
What do you really have? Because you
Exactly.
don't have results. So if you don't have philosophy, what do you have?
Identity. What's your DNA? What's your FPL DNA?
Exactly. But at the end of the day, going to ask us to brace Phil Foden blancos. So, I have to go back to the drawing board and think up a new strategy
Next
beyond
game
just
week
generational
is
players.
coming soon, so not too much time to dwell on that. That's the beauty of it. The double game week ran for so long, and you just got to continue watching the Stones, the Justin, and all these people rack up more points where you knew you couldn't get them in. At least now this is done and dusted very quickly, and you can
Yeah.
do whatever moves you need to.
Yeah. You're right.
Abi.
Yes,
But once
sir.
again, when you analyze a beautiful game, share your expert opinions on social media, do a topical deep dive, or anything else you might be doing. Just make sure you ask yourself.
Do I really know ball?
Thank you very much. Good night.